Revealed how a nanny's hidden kindness transformed a millionaire's children in just 30 days. Sarah had always believed in magic. Not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that came from grit and unyielding belief in herself, a belief she held tightly as she navigated life as a single mother. Her modest apartment on the edge of a prestigious neighborhood in suburban Chicago held the echoes of her hopes and dreams, and the laughter of her sweet daughter, Lily. With one job in the morning, a second in the evening, and another on weekends, Sarah hustled to create a better future. So when the opportunity arose to work as a nanny for the wealthy Reed family, she grabbed it with both hands. Little did she know, this job could change everything, not just for her, but for the home filled with empty smiles and unrealized potential. The Reed kids, Emma and Noah, appeared to have it all. Their bright, immaculate home sparkled with luxury, yet it felt cold, distant. Emma, a teenager drowning in expectations, spent long nights working to maintain her perfect grades, while Noah, perpetually unnoticed, struggled to make friends among peers more obsessed with parties than authenticity. One evening, Sarah prepared dinner, the aromatic spices wafting through the air when she heard muffled sobs from Emma's room. Heart racing, Sarah paused her chopping, sensing the weight of unspoken words. In the living room, Noah sat alone, his gaze reflecting longing as he watched other kids outside who laughed and played, bright and free like balloons against the gray sky. It was in that moment Sarah felt a surge of determination. She couldn't just clock in and clock out. These kids were trapped in their privilege, suffocated by expectations and isolation. She started small, introducing family game nights filled with laughter, stories shared over pizza, and outings that taught them the beauty of community service. The transformation began. Emma laughed more, sharing her burdens instead of burying them, while Noah found joy in the simple act of meeting new friends during volunteer work, breaking out of his shell. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when Sarah thought they were working towards something beautiful, the Reeds caught wind of her unconventional methods. A confrontation loomed. A chilling whisper traveled through the house that night, pulling her into the living room. The tension was tangible, the air thick with judgments and mounting frustrations. The family argued while Sarah stood wide-eyed, her heart climbing into her throat. Emma's tear-streaked face and Noah's clenched fists revealed how deeply this mattered. As the dust settled, the question hung heavy in the air: can true wealth be counted in love and connection? The Reeds faced their reality for the first time, the layers of obligation peeling away to reveal raw, vulnerable hearts. Would they cling to their privilege, or would they risk it all for something real? In that moment, with uncertainty surging through each of them, it became clear that the stakes had never been higher. Sarah, glancing from one face to the next, felt the inspiring weight of their lives shifting, but would it shatter or soar? The tension hung in the air like thick fog, and it was all Sarah could do to keep her composure. She could see the hurt and confusion swirling in Emma's eyes, while Noah's fists were clenched tightly at his sides as if he were holding back a storm. The love and kindness that Sarah had poured into their lives felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap under the pressure of doubt and fear. "Mom, please. Just listen for a second." Emma's voice broke through the chaotic din, and suddenly the room felt achingly quiet. Everyone turned to her, that trembling young girl caught in contradictory worlds. "It's not just about the money. It's about us," she shouted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Noah leaned closer, his heart racing. He wanted to echo her sentiments but felt trapped by the very expectations they had been raised with. Sarah took a deep breath, uncertainty stirring in her own chest. These kids had become part of her life like family. "You both deserve more than just what's expected of you. Life doesn't have to be a checklist of accomplishments," she urged softly, her heart like an open book. The parents, their expressions caught between pride and frustration, hesitated. What Sarah had done, stirring their children's spirits, had unraveled years of careful perfection built around their family. But the question remained, would they allow this awakening to flourish, or clamp down on it out of fear? Sometimes, their father finally spoke, voice strained, "It feels easier to protect you from the world than to adapt to what it is." "Easier," Emma whispered, shaking her head. "But that's not living. It's suffocating." In that moment, everything changed. The silence that followed felt electric, charged with newfound energy. It was like each of them was holding a piece of something vital, a hope that had long lain dormant beneath their riches. The glimmer of a family united by sincerity flickered in the dim light of the living room. Noah's eyes met Emma's, and for the first time, he felt their shared burden lifting. "Then let us try something different," he ventured, urgency lacing his words. "Let us be real together. Let us be a family." Sarah stood as a silent observer, her heart pounding wildly at his boldness. Would it be enough? Could they reshape their lives from the ground up? Their mother wore a conflicted expression but slowly nodded, the weight of her own struggles surfacing. "Maybe we can give this a chance, maybe it's time to break free." What followed was a moment filled with tentative hope, the kind that pushes through the cracks of despair. Sarah allowed herself a smile, her heart swelling with pride at the courage her kids had summoned. Yet deep down, she felt the tremors of an impending shift. But a feeling of uncertainty lingered around them. Just as hope began to replace fear, another harsh reality emerged. What if the world outside their bubble wouldn't understand this transformation? Would they face criticism or, worse, isolation as they ventured into this brave new territory? As Sarah looked at each of their faces, she knew this journey wouldn't be easy. It had only just begun. The question that hung in the air now was not if they would confront the world, but rather how they would emerge from it transformed. That night, as the stars twinkled above, a powerful thought echoed in Sarah's mind. Was it truly possible for them to redefine wealth in their lives together? Would they find a way to foster their hopes and turn them into shared realities? Tomorrow would tell. With fortified hearts, they each braced for the unknown together. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting warm beams across the room. It felt different today, like the air was vibrating with possibilities. Sarah stretched slowly, her heart still catching up from the night's intensity. She sensed that change was in the air, but could they really pull it off? Noah and Emma were already at the breakfast table, deep in conversation. As Sarah entered the kitchen, she was struck by how much more relaxed they appeared, their faces alive with excitement. Maybe they had found an unspoken understanding between them, an alliance built on vulnerability they had never dared to explore before. "Mom," Noah said, a grin spreading across his face. "We were thinking about doing something different today." "What did you have in mind?" Sarah asked, her curiosity piqued. "What if we went to the community center?" Emma suggested, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "You know, the one where they have that mural project going on. I've always wanted to paint something beautiful, and I think it could be fun." For a moment, Sarah was taken aback. The center was a place where kids from different backgrounds came together, some not as fortunate as Noah and Emma. But then she remembered her promise to embrace life outside their composed bubble. "That sounds amazing," Sarah said, her heart swelling. "But are you both ready for something like this?" Noah nodded vigorously. "We want to see beyond just our lives. It's time to connect with others. We want something real." Decision made, they quickly finished breakfast and got ready. The drive to the center was filled with laughter. Emma recounted a story from school, her words bubbling with excitement. Noah joined in, teasing her in a playful back-and-forth that made Sarah's heart warm. They were together. Laughing. Family. Arriving at the center was eye-opening. The vibrant building stood in contrast to the pristine homes they had left behind, painted in hues that appeared to dance under the sun. Children filled the playground, their voices mingling with the sound of joyful laughter. Sarah felt an unfamiliar thrill. It was like stepping into a different world, both exhilarating and terrifying. As they approached the mural project, Noah's bravado slipped a bit. "Do you think they'll accept us?" he asked quietly, glancing back at his sister. Emma's confidence remained unshaken. Why wouldn't they? We're here to help, not to judge, she replied, her determination shimmering in her eyes. The volunteers welcomed them with open arms. They were met by a warm woman named Maria, whose infectious smile put them at ease. We're so happy to have you. We believe everyone has a voice, a story to tell through art, she said, leading them to the mural in progress. As they painted, Sarah marveled at how liberating this felt. Every brushstroke, every splash of color felt like breaking chains. With each flick of paint, the nervousness and uncertainty faded, and in its place, something beautiful was taking form. The mural began to tell the story of connection, hope, and community. Noah and Emma engrossed themselves in the work, laughter echoing and artisanship blooming on the wall. But as the day wore on, Sarah began to realize a deeper truth. The more they worked together, the clearer it became that it wasn't just about creating art. It was about breaking down walls, redefining who they were. However, the struggles did not vanish completely. Whispers of doubt tugged at her heart. Would this newfound freedom truly last? As they stood back to admire their collaborative masterpiece, Sarah's heart soared. But just then, a familiar face appeared at the edge of the crowd, someone from the past who wasn't ready to get lost. What are you doing here? The words froze Sarah where she stood, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't just about transforming their family anymore. It was about facing the parts of their lives they had tried to leave behind. How would they move forward with this confrontation looming? The question hung heavily in the air as they faced the reality that was about to collide with their hopes. The moment felt like the world had shifted on its axis. Sarah's stomach twisted as she locked eyes with the figure standing just at the edge of the colorful mural. It was Clara, her old college roommate. They hadn't spoken in years, not since Sarah had chosen a different path, a path that led to a quiet life with her children. Clara's appearance felt jarring amidst the laughter and vibrancy that filled the community center. Sarah, Clara said, her voice cutting through the noise like a sharp blade. I didn't expect to see you here. There was a hint of surprise in her eyes, but the walls around her heart seemed firmly established. Sarah's heart raced, memories flooding back the carefree days of college mingling with dreams long buried beneath the weight of responsibility. What are you doing here? Sarah managed, her voice steadier than she felt. She tried to inject humor into her words, but it fell flat, pinched by the tension that suddenly enveloped them. I'm working with the community center's art programs, Clara replied, her eyes narrowing slightly. We've created an outreach initiative for kids in need. I guess you could say I'm trying to give a little back. There was pride in her tone, but Sarah couldn't shake the unspoken judgment behind those words. Feeling heat rising in her cheeks, Sarah glanced back at Noah and Emma. They were still painting, blissfully unaware of the unearthing of the past hanging just above them. How could she explain to them the storms brewing within her? Wow, that's great, she said, forcing a smile. Isn't it a bit of a shift for you? Clara continued, eyes probing. I mean, from the life you had to this. Just like that, Sarah felt defensive. The sanctuary they had built, the redefined family unit, now seemed vulnerable under Clara's scrutiny. We chose this, Sarah stated firmly. It's about connecting with people, not judging their circumstances. Clara's gaze softened for just a moment. I shouldn't have said that, she conceded, raising her hands in a gesture of apology. You're right. Art speaks volumes, and I respect you for trying something new. But the sincerity felt half-hearted. Sarah's gut twisted. Perhaps this was why she had kept Clara at arm's length, afraid the judgment would overshadow the genuine bond she was trying to create in her own family. As they stood there, silence hung between them, thick and almost suffocating. Sarah took a breath, trying to steel herself against the memories of their past. I guess we are all just trying to find our place, she finally said, seeking a bridge to span their divergent paths. Noah turned around then, wiping paint from his hands and glancing between the two women. Mom, everything okay? Sarah forced a smile. Yeah, just a little blast from the past. Emma chimed in, maybe you need to join us and help paint. The innocence in her voice only intensified the tension. Clara's lips pulled into a small smile. I'd love to, but I think I'm more of a spectator at the moment. You guys are doing something really special. Something in the compliment felt disingenuous, as if it were meant to imbue Clara with a sense of having the higher ground. As they stood there, Sarah's mind raced through what they had all been through, the barriers they had created, and yet here was someone, questioning if it was enough. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the playground outside. Sarah's heart leapt, her motherly instincts kicking in. She turned instinctively to the sound, feeling the weight of Clara's gaze on her back. What was she letting into their lives? The walls they had built around their emerging happiness felt fragile, like a painted wall waiting for someone to throw a rock through it. "Let us go check it out," Noah said, excitement brimming in his eyes. They all moved toward the playground, but Sarah felt a piece of her drift behind, weighed down with unresolved questions. With each step, she realized the challenge wasn't just painting a mural, it was about facing every shadow from the past that threatened to invade their newly drawn boundaries. As they reached the playground, uncertainty danced with excitement. In that moment, the question bubbled just beneath the surface: are they brave enough to face what the future and the past may hold? Sarah hurried towards the playground, her heart racing with a mix of urgency and dread. The laughter that had filled the community center felt miles away, like a distant echo. Noah's little feet pounded against the pavement, his energy infectious, while Emma skipped beside him, blissfully ignorant of the turmoil that loomed over her mother. As they rounded the corner, Sarah's eyes scanned the playground, and her breath caught. A group of children huddled around a toppled swing set, giggling and shrieking as they explored the aftermath of their innocent chaos. She felt an acute twinge of relief wash over her when she saw that no one was hurt, just a little startled. "Look!" Emma exclaimed, pointing. "It's like a giant slide." One of the older kids, Marcus, was attempting to right the swing with the help of a few others, while others clambered over it as if it were a structure meant for adventure. Their carefree laughter followed her like an unwelcome reminder that they saw joy where she felt anxiety. "Stay close, okay?" Sarah called out as she approached. She dropped down beside Emma, who was eagerly pushing a friend on the swing. "Just watch your friends. They need help, but be careful." Noah, ever the little helper, rushed to join Marcus. "I can help!" he shouted, his voice filled with determination. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, even as she felt a cold knot twist in her stomach. She wanted to protect them but also knew that the world was full of unexpected tumbles. Clara lingered a few steps behind, watching them with an unreadable expression. Sarah felt the heat of her gaze bearing down on her back. There was something peculiar about the way Clara observed, as if she were measuring not just the chaotic scene but also the state of Sarah's motherhood. "Nice to see you embracing the chaos," Clara remarked, stepping closer. "It's good for them to learn how to handle situations like this." "Yeah, well, it's one thing to watch, another to always jump in," Sarah said, her tone sharper than she intended. She didn't want to acknowledge Clara's point, not when it seemed to highlight her own hesitations. Clara raised her brow, not backing down. "But isn't that how we grow? By facing those moments head on? Just like you're teaching your kids." In that moment, Sarah felt a jolt of connection and a pang of irritation all at once. There was truth in Clara's words, but it felt like barbs wrapped in a compliment. "I guess it's easier said than done, isn't it?" The atmosphere shifted slightly. An unspoken challenge hung in the air as they both turned their attention back to the children. Noah was now helping Marcus lift the swing, and Emma cheered them on gleefully. The sight brought a rush of warmth to Sarah's chest, but the pang of doubt lingered strong. "Maybe we are doing our best each in our own way," Clara said softly, the edge in her stance fading. "I just wish what? That idea turned out differently?" The words escaped before Sarah could swallow them back. A hush settled over their conversation, ruptured only by the happy squeals of children. Clara opened her mouth, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. "No, that's not what I meant," but before Sarah could hear the rest, another loud crash reverberated, this time from the chain-link fence. An older boy had shoved a lighter child, and the commotion exploded into shouts. "Stop it!" Emma yelled, running toward the chaos. Sarah's heart dropped. In a split second, she dashed after her, worry coursing through her veins. "Emma, wait!" Clara shouted, following closely behind. Sarah lunged, her instincts bounding into overdrive. As she reached Emma, she felt the weight of Clara at her side, a strange partnership ignited by the urgency of the moment. Could they really stand together? Was there a way to mend the past, the judgments, and the misunderstandings? As she wrapped her arm around Emma, her gaze flickered to Clara, uncertainty swirling in her chest. Could facing their past bring them a chance to forge a new future together, or would the weight of old grudges tip them off balance once again? Just then, Emma turned wide-eyed towards Sarah, innocence radiating from her. "Mom, can we help him?" That single question hung in the air, more than just a plea for action. It was a beacon, perhaps the first step towards finding strength not just in herself, but in the connections they had with one another. But was she ready to embrace it? That was the real question. Sarah felt a surge of panic wash over her as she held Emma close. The chaotic scene unfolded, a whirlwind of emotion and noise. The older boy taunted his smaller opponent, shoving him again, laughter mingling with cries. Time seemed to pause as the innocent joy of the playground shattered. "Emma, we can't just run into the middle of that," Sarah whispered urgently, her heart racing. She could see the determination in her daughter's eyes, a reflection of the fairness that pulsed within her. "But Mom, he needs help," Emma insisted, tugging at Sarah's arm. Clara stepped forward, her voice calm yet firm. "We need to show them that they can resolve this without fighting." She glanced at Sarah, a silent plea in her gaze. Were they really doing this together? The old wounds softened for a fleeting moment in the face of a common purpose. "All right, let us try," Sarah said, drawing in a breath. The three of them moved toward the chaos, each step heavy with uncertainty. "Everyone stop!" Sarah's voice rose above the tumult, commanding attention. The kids fell silent, their eyes shifting to the trio. Sarah adjusted her stance, feeling Clara beside her, a steadying presence against the tide of youthful energy. "This isn't how we handle things. Let us talk instead." The older boy, arms crossed defiantly, scoffed. "Why should we talk? He started it." "Maybe so," Clara interjected, her confidence growing, "but pushing and shoving is not the answer. We can find a better way." She stepped closer to the scuffle, the spirit of compassion driving her. The smaller child, teary-eyed, glanced at Clara, vulnerability visible in his gaze. Sarah felt a country of emotions swell within her, a mix of admiration for Clara and a desperate need to protect her children. "Yeah, how about we play a game instead?" Noah suggested, stepping up boldly. "We could all play tag. It's way more fun." A ripple of interest flicked through the group as they contemplated the idea. Emma grinned and added, "And we can have teams. It'll be like a super squad." The tension in the air began to dissolve like morning mist, replaced by the promise of fun. The older boy stepped back, confusion giving way to intrigue. "Tag, huh? That could be cool." Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding, relief flooding her senses. Clara flashed her an encouraging smile as the children began to separate from the confrontation, laughter bubbling forth again. "All right. We need to set some ground rules," Sarah called out, feeling the adrenaline begin to fade. They discussed the boundaries of the game, excitement bubbling over as they all began to position themselves. In that moment, Sarah felt the knot in her stomach start to loosen. There might be a path to healing, not only for her children but for herself too. It would take more than one incident, more than just words, but this felt like a step, an open door inviting cooperation where conflict had threatened to reign. As the children raced into action, Sarah stole a glance at Clara. "It seems maybe we can start fresh, after all?" Clara nodded slowly, her face showing both hope and hesitation. "It won't be easy, but I think we can learn together. Just like them." Just then, Noah darted by, a laugh spilling from his lips, and in that joyous moment, Sarah knew that they were all learning to embrace imperfections. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows on the playground, a distant voice called out. A figure approached, an unfamiliar woman, her expression anxious. "Excuse me. Has anyone seen my son Thomas? He was supposed to be here. A rush of anxiety clawed at Sarah once more. In the midst of their progress, this new mention of worry brought her back to a sharp edge of reality. What if this was a sign that chaos was only a heartbeat away? An unsettling silence fell over the playground. Children paused mid-game, their giggles fading into whispers. The unfamiliar woman looked frantic, scanning the area with wild eyes. Sarah's heart raced again, not just from concern but from the sharp realization of how quickly joy could turn into fear. "Emma, stay close," she said, her voice steady but low. She approached the woman, staying calm despite the flutter of anxiety in her chest. "What does he look like?" "Thomas is he 7. He has curly brown hair and was wearing a blue shirt and green shorts," the woman's voice trembled. "He was playing with some friends, but now I can't find him." Sarah exchanged a glance with Clara. Did they have Thomas in their game? She bit her lip, anxiety coursing through her veins. She turned back to the other kids, who had started to gather and whisper among themselves. "Has anyone seen Thomas?" she called out, her voice gaining urgency. The kids shook their heads, confused. Noah frowned, glancing back toward a line of trees that shaded one side of the playground. "He was by the swings earlier. Maybe he went to climb the trees? Then we should check there," Emma chirped, her earlier joy now replaced by concern for the boy she didn't know. Instinctively, Sarah knelt to her daughter. "Emma, you need to stay with me, okay? We'll check it together." She turned to the woman, whose face was paling. "We'll help you find him." As they moved toward the trees, Clara followed closely, keeping an eye on Sarah and Emma. How could he just disappear like that? Clara murmured, her own worry evident. They fanned out as they approached the swings. Each step felt heavy, like wading through thick fog. "Thomas!" Sarah called, weaving her way through the playground's heavy shadows. "Where are you?" Every moment stretched out, time twisting. What if he's hurt? Sarah thought, panic rising in her chest. She felt that protective instinct swell in urgency to keep not just her children safe but everyone around her. "Look over there!" Clara shouted suddenly, pointing at the base of the trees. Shadows danced, but there, half hidden, was a figure, a small boy curled up against the trunk, his little hands covering his face, quietly sobbing. "Thomas!" The woman ran forward, her anxiousness melting into urgent relief. When Sarah reached the boy first, she knelt down. "Hey there, buddy. Are you okay?" His big brown eyes peeked out from behind his hands streaked with tears. "I couldn't find my friends," he cried, his voice small and lost. "Oh, sweetie, you're not alone. We're all here," Sarah reassured him gently, her heart aching. "Let us go find your mom, okay? Thomas! There you are!" The woman scooped him up, wrapping him tightly in her arms as he clung to her. Tears of relief mingled with his as Sarah watched the reunion unfold. A wave of warmth washed over her, reminding her that kindness and compassion held the power to shift emotions, turn fear into safety, turned chaos into calm. Clara stood beside her, a look of appreciation brightening her expression. The children started gathering behind them, excitement bubbling again, even through the remnants of alarm. "What's next?" Noah asked eagerly, a hint of his earlier playfulness returning. Sarah exchanged a glance with Clara, then turned to the group. "How about we all play together now? Tag, or maybe a treasure hunt?" As they cheered, a new sense of unity began to form. But in the back of her mind, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something bigger. A chill crept in as she glanced at the woman, the frantic look fading to relief, but something deeper lingered in her gaze. "Excuse me," the woman said, this time slower, more composed. "I didn't realize how close I was to losing him. I need to thank you all properly. Can we sit down and talk?" But before Sarah could respond, she felt a vibration in her pocket. A text alert read, "It's time to meet." Confusion clouded her thoughts. Who was this person, and what role would they play in this evolving chapter of her life? As the laughter of children filled the air around them, Sarah wondered what true transformation awaited in the moments ahead. As the chatter from the playground surrounded her, Sarah stared at her phone, the words on the screen pulsing with urgency. The text felt cold and jarring amidst the warmth of the newly reunited family nearby. It's time to meet. Her heart raced again, but this time it wasn't just worry for a child. Perhaps it was curiosity, tinged with apprehension. She felt a nagging pull to investigate but couldn't shake the heavy weight of responsibility clinging to her. Are you okay? Clara asked, glancing at Sarah's face, concern etched in her brows. Sarah nodded, forcing a smile. Just a message I need to respond to. Let me know if you need anything. Clara's tone was supportive, but something in her voice held a note of unease, reflecting Sarah's own uncertainty. The woman with Thomas, now calmly stroking his hair, drew closer, her expression softer but still haunted. Are you sure you have time to talk? She asked, her voice trembling less now but still quivering with emotion. I can stay for a moment, Sarah replied, glancing back to the playground. The children were laughing again, darting back to their games, but they felt distant, like pieces of a different puzzle. Thank you, the woman said, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. I'm Amelia, by the way. I don't know what I would have done if, well, I'm just so glad you found him. Sarah, she introduced herself, her gaze slipping back to the boy who was slowly recovering. He is really brave. More than I am, Amelia murmured. When he went missing, it felt like my whole world was crumbling. I didn't think I had much left to hold on to. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time, the message read, You only have one chance to find the truth. What truth? Sarah thought, feeling the weight of the words. She had come to the park just to enjoy a sunny afternoon, not to wrestle with cryptic texts or the hidden stories of strangers. Are you all right? Clara's voice broke through her thoughts. Just something pressing, Sarah replied vaguely, still drawn to the tug of her phone. But a shiver of resolve surged through her. She had to focus on the moment, it was too precious to miss. Amelia continued, sharing snippets of her life, her struggles, and the fear that gnawed at her when she briefly lost Thomas. Sarah listened intently, amazed and humbled by the strength this woman had shown. I realize that it's all about community, Amelia exclaimed softly. Finding support in people you never expected to be part of your life. As these words resonated deeply, Sarah contemplated the truth behind them. She felt that sense of connection this afternoon, a spark igniting from the shared need to care for one another. One day, we just connect with people at the right moment, Sarah said, her voice hopeful. Maybe this day is significant for us all. Then, without warning, another buzz vibrated against her hip. She recoiled slightly, then pulled out the phone once again. Meet at the Old Oak on Maple Street. Midnight. A chill crept down Sarah's spine, an instinct whispering that this wasn't just about her anymore. She glanced at Amelia, not entirely ready for more surprises. Maybe whoever sent the message had answers or brought complications she hadn't asked for. Listen, Sarah said, finally making her decision. I have to go. There is something I need to do, something that can't wait. But as she took a few steps away, she felt Amelia's lingering gaze. You're leaving? Just like that? I have to, she said, torn between duty and curiosity. But I'm here for you, for Thomas. You're not alone anymore. The sun began to dip in the sky, casting long shadows across the playground, as Sarah turned to head toward her destination. The laughter faded behind her, but the pull of the unknown ahead intensified. Questions flooded her mind. What awaited her at Maple Street? And more importantly, would this lead to a deeper understanding of herself or reflect fears she hadn't faced before? As she approached the path that led out of the playground, a sense of foreboding mingled with excitement. Whatever awaited her at midnight under the old oak tree, she couldn't escape the feeling that it might change everything she thought she knew. What is going to happen next? She murmured, her heart racing anew. Each step away from the playground felt heavier than the last. The laughter of the children faded, replaced by the distant murmur of wind rustling through trees, a reminder of the urgency behind her phone's relentless buzz. Sarah's heart raced. She glanced at the screen again, the words taunting her like a riddle waiting to be solved. The old oak on Maple Street loomed in her mind, ancient and timeless. What could possibly happen there at midnight? Who was meeting her? Would they hold the keys to answers she didn't even know she needed? She made her way down the path, the sun sinking lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced eerily across her route. Sarah felt like a character stepping onto a stage without a script in hand. She was hurtling toward an unknown plot twist, her instincts a confusing mix of dread and intrigue. As she reached Maple Street, anxiety began to gnaw at her. She paused to catch her breath, glancing around at familiar storefronts now bathed in evening glow. Every creaky floorboard beneath her feet seemed to echo her decision. A chance to uncover the truth, or perhaps a layer of truth she had buried deep within herself. Then, there was the massive oak tree standing solemnly at the end of the block, its gnarled branches stretching wide like welcoming arms or ominous fingers. The bark held stories of its own, and she felt a connection to it, as if it could sense her hesitation. Each second felt like an eternity as she approached. Barely a soul was in sight. In the solitude, her thoughts were loud, the comfortable hum of the playground memories clashing with her inner turmoil. What had she left behind? Had she even given that moment with Amelia a fair chance before rushing into this uncertainty? Just as she arrived, a figure emerged from behind the tree, startling her. A tall man with a familiar face, lined with shadows and an expression that held an unreadable weight. He stepped forward, and recognition washed over her like ice water. "James?" Sarah gasped, trying to catch her breath. This was the last person she expected to see tonight. Behind the polished exterior, she remembered moments of vulnerability they had shared, the brief flickers of connection that always left her yearning for more. "Sarah," he replied, his voice hesitant as if he too had been wrestling with the gravity of the moment. "I didn't think you'd come." "I got your message," she replied, curiosity and trepidation warring within her. Was this about the truth the text had hinted at? He shifted his stance, avoiding her gaze. "I need to explain everything. But first, you have to know that." His voice trailed off, and Sarah's heart raced faster, sensing the weight of whatever revelation lay ahead. "What do I need to know?" she urged, stepping closer, wanting to bridge whatever gap had grown between them. His eyes flickered with intensity. "The truth is connected to Thomas and to Amelia." Just then, a chill hung in the air, urging her to lean in, to dig deeper. What had happened while she was lost in her own world? How interconnected were their lives in ways she hadn't yet realized? As the moonlight spilled over them, illuminating the intricate knots of the old oak, Sarah couldn't shake the sense that the night held the potential for transformation, for healing, but also for confrontation she hadn't anticipated. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. In the silence that followed, she could feel fate hanging in the balance. Would this moment open doors to unexpected connections or unleash secrets that could shatter the fragile peace she had just begun to embrace? As James took a breath, she realized her own heart was beating in tune with the impending revelation. What did they have to lose, and what might they gain together? The truth was waiting, and it was time to find it. James took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto Sarah's. The moonlight bathed them in silver, casting shadows that danced ominously around them. "It's about Thomas and Amelia and how our paths have been crossing in ways you never imagined." Sarah's pulse quickened. "What do you mean? How can they be connected to us?" she pressed. Here they stood, two intertwined lives shaped by choices made in the past, and a present filled with potential. "Remember when I told you life doesn't separate the good from the bad?" James began, his voice heavy with emotion. "My father, he had some dark connections. Things I hoped to outrun." The way his eyes dropped told her it was more than just his family history, it was the weight of assumptions and scars carried through his life. Sarah felt a strange sympathy bloom within her. "Your father?" she asked cautiously. "What does he have to do with Thomas?" "It turns out, he's been involved with certain people in the city. People who take advantage of others' children, families in need. It's drawn him into some shady dealings." His voice trembled as each word tumbled out. Amelia worked with a community outreach program my father was connected to. Wait, you mean she's been caught in the middle of this? Sarah's heart sank. Could their newfound connection be tainted by the shadows of James's past? Not just her. They were using the art programs to funnel money. Undercover investigations have been launched. I didn't want to believe it until I saw you all today. He took a deep breath, collecting his thoughts. I had to warn you. I realize this affects your children too. I didn't want to lose you again. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. So Amelia is in danger, right? What could this mean for Thomas? Her mind swirled with images of chaos, fear creeping in like a vapor. This wasn't just about them anymore. It could spiral into something uncontrollable. James nodded soberly. We need to protect them. This affects all of us. But we can't do it alone. I saw how you fought for those kids today. How you stepped in when tensions rose. You have something real here, a bond that can bring light to those shadows. Hope sparked within her, a flicker of possibility against the storm raging outside. What can we do? She asked, urgency clear in her voice. We need to gather everyone we need to confront the truth together, he urged. Amelia deserves to know. If she can rally the other parents, we might have a chance. As they spoke, the air around them seemed to shift. The past weighed them down, but now their words felt like stones being lifted. Could they really rewrite this chapter of their lives? Or was it too late to uncover buried truths without consequences? Meet me tomorrow at the center. We'll bring everyone together, she decided, her heart pounding with resolve. It's time for all of us to stand strong, not just for ourselves but for the families who could fall into this trap. James's eyes lit up, a flicker of hope dancing across his face. I'll do everything I can to help, he vowed. You're the voice they need, Sarah. I've seen it today with your children that spirit of compassion and strength can heal. With those words hanging in the cool night air, Sarah felt a newfound sense of purpose awaken within her. It wasn't just about protecting her family anymore. It was about confronting something bigger, something that threatened their way of life. As she turned to leave, Sarah felt the weight of uncertainty lift slightly, replaced by the thrill of possibility. It wasn't just her story or James's anymore. It was about a community, and the ties that could bind them together in the face of adversity. The sun rose the next day with the same intensity as her resolve. Gearing up for the gathering at the center, Sarah felt the heartbeat of hope thrumming in her chest. She met Amelia with a purposeful determination. Amelia, Sarah said firmly, we need to talk not just for ourselves but for every child who deserves security. Amelia took a moment to process the gravity of Sarah's words. You mean about what's happening? She whispered, her face paling slightly with fear. Yes, we need to protect our children. There's strength in numbers, Sarah urged, catching the attention of other parents who had begun to trickle in. It felt electric. The collective realization that they weren't alone sparked an energy across the room. The community, once fractured, began to reform around a singular cause. We need to keep our eyes open and be vigilant for one another, Sarah declared. Let us take action together. Fired up with renewed spirit, everyone nodded in agreement. They began to brainstorm ways to address the situation, sharing information, supporting each other, and uncovering the truth behind the scenes. As the meeting wound down, Sarah looked around at the faces framed in determination, no longer worried, but uplifted. Real change was brewing, and it felt breathtakingly alive. With James by her side, and Clara just a few steps away, it seemed they were building a mosaic of support that could withstand any storm. As Sarah stepped out into the bright afternoon sunlight, hope blossomed in her heart. They were on the brink of something transformative, not just for theirs, but for every family bound to these shared struggles. True wealth could indeed be measured by the love they cultivated together. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, tracing the lines of courage drawn by the newfound connections. Tomorrow we rise. And with that resolve, she embraced the power of change that had begun to spread beyond what she had imagined, shaping futures from threads of courage, resilience, and love woven by every hand willing to reach out. The cycle of hope was just beginning, and her heart beat with the certainty that this was only the first step, an invitation to the future filled with possibility. This is the moment to make an impact. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with friends who need to embrace change. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next chapter in this unfolding journey. Leave a like now to help us spread the light even further. And comment on how this transformation has touched you. Your voice matters.